Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
Hey everybody, well, the camera's facing me, so I guess I'm going to be either showing some big knives or I'm going to be ranting or something. Well, actually what I'm going to be doing is showing some big knives, ranting, and also showing some little knives. So it's going to be a little bit of everything here today. And part of what I'm doing is also answering some viewer questions. Now, interesting enough, I'm not actually going to read you the question, but you're going to get my response to the question. So how does that work? Well, I think just from my response, you'll kind of have an idea what the question was, because quite frankly, a lot of YouTube content creators get these same questions all the time. And well, sometimes we answer them and sometimes we don't. And yeah, quite often they do come across as a rant. And so, and rants are sometimes fun as long as they're not, too abusive or anything like that. And I'm going to try and keep this, well, no, I'm not even going to try and keep this short. It's going to ramble. There's no doubt about it. I guess I should try and keep it short, but that's one of my complaints also. Somebody said that I have a problem getting to a point and that I ramble too much. And, well, you know what? Yeah, I do. And I admit it. And you know what? That's part of my channel. If you want to see a really quick overview of a knife, go somewhere else. That's what I do. I will often go and look for very short reviews of knives because that person is getting to a point. He's not getting to the same point I'm trying to get to, and he's also not covering as much information as I'm trying to cover. So there's a difference. And some people are really good at having a short, concise review of a knife. Other people aren't. I'm one of those other people. One of the things that I do that a lot of other channels don't do is I do a slideshow. So they'll be showing you the knife, boom, 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 boom. And you never really got a good view of the knife, but they said it's a great knife. Well, that's what my slideshow is for, because I get it. I don't always show the best view of the knife. Sometimes the camera doesn't focus right or anything else. So if you really want to see all the information, the specs on a knife or anything, most of the time I'll do a slideshow and it'll be at the end and it will have really good pictures, especially the pictures where if I said there was a flaw in the knife or something like that, there'll be a nice close-up picture showing you the flaw. And then I'll actually try and give you all the specifications. Now, all the specifications may not be every specification that you were looking for, but they were the specifications that I felt was important for that knife. Sorry, that's the way it goes. And sometimes there's space constraints on how much information I can put down for these specifications on the knife. So I can't put everything down. I can't write an entire book on a pocket knife. I can't go any deeper into that. But anyway, showed this knife a minute ago. Guess what? Got another one too. Two of them, yeah. Would you believe it? I actually bought two of the Undertaker 3 Bowies. Why? Because I like them. I do collect fantasy knives, and here's the thing about the Undertaker 3 Bowie knife. It's a pretty cool looking knife. There's only one review of this knife on YouTube that I can find, and the person who reviewed it about a year ago, and he gave it a very positive review because you know what? This thing can cut like the dickens. It can cut up stuff. You can beat on stuff with it and everything else, and it holds an edge well enough for what it is. I think he said it was 440A stainless steel. I believe it's most likely 420. Frost, yeah, this is a Jim Frost design. Frost designed this knife. He sold it. And yeah, there are things about this knife that you can complain about. And I'm actually going to do a video on this knife in the near future and go over the things that you can complain about with this knife. But I tell you one thing about it right now. If you were into fantasy knives and this knife, instead of saying Jim Frost designed here, said like Kit Ray or Gil Hibbins, people would be paying triple or double or quadruple for this knife simply because of what's on the tang stamp. And it wouldn't be any better than what this one is here. So I'm telling you, I'm still really impressed with this knife in so many ways. Like I said, I'll be talking more about this knife in the future. My tagline for this one, when I do get around to it, was going to be something like, you know, this is a knife that some little kid is going to buy. And the person who bought this knife was the little kid inside of me, because this is really just a fun knife. And you can see why Skip has decided to make it the channel knife. Oh, this one. Frostwood, can you dig it? Skip's not getting it. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Now, before I get to the question, would you look at this knife? I just got this one. This is a Kaufman 55 with the 2 Ks. It's got the nice rivets going on there. It's got a nice spear blade, and it's some kind of electrician knife, I think. I will be doing a better review of this in the future, hopefully, but you may never see it again on the channel at the same time. You can see the screwdriver blade there, and it's got the wire stripper there. That's why I think it's an electrical or an electrician's knife. But the cool thing on it is over here, it's got this wonderful punch. And it's a 1/4 round punch, so it's a relatively older knife. I don't know how old this knife is. I don't know a lot about it, but I saw it. I managed to find it on eBay. It was selling for a really low price. When I first looked at it, I thought it was a type of marlin spike knife, but closer I looked at it, I thought, no, this is an electrician knife. I'm not sure why an electrician would need the punch here, or the awl, whatever you want to call it, but it just looked really awesome, so I thought I'd picked it up. And there it is. And it's got the plastic handles with the wonderful bird's eye rivets, so it's a really cool knife, and I like it. And I picked this one up because of that reason. I like it. But here's the deal. You having a favorite knife that you want me to review on my channel is not a prerequisite for me buying a knife. That's as clear as I can get with this. There are many people who have asked me to buy a knife so I can review it because they're interested in the knife. Well, here's the deal. If you want me to review a knife that you're interested in and I don't own it, how about you buying it for me and sending it to me? Because otherwise, I feel like I'm just being suckered. You're saying, huh, I don't know if this knife's any good. You know, I wonder if I can get somebody to review it for me. And then if they like it, I'll buy it. But I'm not going to buy it unless I can find a review of it that says it's a really good knife. It doesn't work that way. The knives I review on my channel are knives that I purchased, and the reason I purchased them is because I was interested in it. So if you're really interested in a knife and you want to know if it's good or bad, all I can say is either do a little research, look around on YouTube, find out if somebody has reviewed it. I have no problem with a person asking, hey, do you have this knife? Have you ever reviewed it? Because if a person asks that, I will tell them yes or no if I have the knife. If I'm going to review it in the future, I will tell them, yeah, I have the knife. I haven't gotten around to reviewing it. If I have reviewed it in the past, I will say, yeah, and I will supply the link over to where I have the knife reviewed. But for you to say, hey, how come you haven't ever reviewed this knife? And I say, well, I don't own it. And then they say, well, why don't you buy it and review it? No, you buy the knife, send it to me, and then I'll review it. Or you buy the knife, review it yourself, let me know about it, and then I'll decide if it's something I'm really worth, that I feel like I should buy. How's that work? I don't see why you expect somebody else to buy a knife and review it using their own money simply so you can avoid buying a knife that you may not like. I'm not going to buy a knife simply because I have a YouTube channel that I am not interested in. That's a fact of life. And I think that's the case with a lot of YouTubers, unless the YouTuber is somebody who is actually being paid by somebody to review knives and they're getting knives for free, or in case they're involved with some kind of pass around group where they're not physically paying for the knife, but they're getting the knife some other way and then they're reviewing it. And those are really kind of a good way to look at it. If you can find a group of people who do a pass around, and then you might be able to see them review a knife they may not normally get that they actually like. And there's a couple pass around groups out there, like the Apex pass around group. They deal mostly in modern folders. So if you're looking at modern folders, that's where you should go to. Look at the Apex pass around group. Ask them, hey, have you ever thought about this knife? And maybe they will look at it and think about it. But do not expect somebody such as me, who really the only knives you ever see on my channel are the knives that I purchased myself, to buy a knife simply because you're interested in it. It doesn't work that way. Now this is my Spyderco Para 3. Everyone knows what the PM3, the paramilitary 3, whatever. It's the little brother to the PM2, so it's about, what, 4 inches long or so with a 3-inch blade, something like that. This is one of the few modern folders I have, and I really like it. Like it quite a bit. You know, it's got the whole, you know, I can Spidey flick it with the one finger. Probably can't do it on camera. Yeah, more or less can. I can do the old thumb flick with no problem. And you can, and it drop shuts really well. It's a really drop shutting knife. I can do the old flick like this, which is the way I open so many knives. You know, really like the knife. And I like the drop shuttiness of it and everything else. I like that, well, most of the time I like that I can open it one-handed and it drops. But this is not the Spyderco I normally carry. I usually carry the Spyderco Dragonfly, which is a little smaller, has a back lock, nothing fancy about it. And really, it's almost more like a traditional knife these days than, you know, anything even approaching a modern folder. I like Spydercos, and the question I always get is, why don't you buy a Benchmade? Why don't you own any Benchmades? Because I really have no desire to own a Benchmade. Nothing wrong with the company. This is not a political decision on my part. Matter of fact, the people who've made that political decision about, I'm not going to buy Benchmade because they're anti-Second Amendment and all this nonsense, go and actually do a little research and read up on the fact of what the whole story was about, because you've been fed a line of crap. Anyway, that said, the reason I don't own a Benchmade is because I'm just not interested in owning a Benchmade. Now, if you feel, like so many people, we'll get to the case knife in just a second, the argument is the same for both of them. Matter of fact, let's get out there with the case knife. How come you don't own a case trapper? Because I got a Remington trapper. It's that simple. I've got the Remington trapper. It's USA made. It was made by Camillus. It's a wonderful knife. I like it, you know. But trappers just don't float my boat. They're not the pattern I like. They're not the pattern I really care to collect or anything like that. I know that trappers are supposedly the most popular traditional pattern knife ever made, and all of mankind loves the trapper. And I know that it is the most collected pattern among case knives is the case trapper, the standard trapper. Now, I do have a case trapper. Got this one here. It's a mini trapper. I like it, and it's a really interesting mini trapper because it's an old mini trapper that has a pin blade. So it isn't even a standard trapper, standard mini trapper, because it doesn't have the spay blade. Got another one by Camillus, also not a standard trapper. It's got this funky blade here, and it's called the bartender trapper. So I've got a couple USA made trappers, but mostly I've got some old Chinese made trappers from Rough Rider. I don't think I got anybody in, and one by Kissing Crane, I think. Or is it Robert Class? I don't know. Anyway, I don't own a lot of trappers, and I have no desire to buy a trapper. And that comes to my point here. If me owning a Spyderco, and that's the only really, this is the closest thing to a high-end modern folder that I have. You know, it's over $100 or so, but that's it. Trapper, USA made trapper, that's pretty much it. If you feel that my knife collection is incomplete because I do not own a case trapper or I do not own a Benchmade, well then, you know what? Pony up the money, buy one, and send it to me. And that way your life will be complete. Because quite frankly, my life is complete without a Benchmade and without a case trapper. And if you're doing that though, apparently the Benchmades that I need to own are either what, the 940 or the bug out. You know, go ahead and get one of them that's in a sprint run. Yeah, get me a sprint run Benchmade 940 and send it to me. You know what, better yet, instead of getting me a Benchmade 940, get me a Porsche 940. Now that I would like, a Porsche 940. That's a real classic. And that is really a collectible item. But if you feel like you really need to get me a Benchmade, then go ahead and pick me up a Benchmade 940. And you can feel like you have completed my life by doing so. Same thing with the case trapper. Case trapper, you should probably lean towards the genuine Stag. By the way, I have bought case trappers in the past. You know what I did with them? I gave them to other people. I just didn't care. It really did not need to be in my collection. But if you buy one for me, I will be so sincerely happy that I'll keep it forever. How's that sound for you? And you will feel like you completed my life by getting me a case trapper and a Benchmade 940. There you go. Wouldn't that make you feel great? Okay, let's move on to something else. Just picked up this thing. It's by Smith & Wesson. It's like a leguil style knife. Big chunky thing too. I think it's about, oh, do I have it here? Yeah. Yeah, this thing's like 5 inches long, closed, and it's got a big blade on there. Look at how thick that blade is. Definitely not your typical leguil style knife. That is a big chunky blade. Got a nice hollow grind going on, and it's got a thumb stud there and a liner lock. So, you know, they're trying to mix it up, trying to make it a little more modern, make it a liner lock and everything. But I tell you what, that thumb stud, oh man. You can open it one-handed, but I tell you what, that thumb stud just does not work very well for me. It's also got a nail nick there, so I'll probably remove that thumb stud because I don't really need it. I know a lot of people are like, wow, you just oil it up a bit and get used to using that thumb stud. But it's not positioned in the best place, so it doesn't really work too well. So I'm probably going to just pop it off, and that way, well, at least they put it in a good spot, because it doesn't interfere with the cutting edge of the blade. You know, the cutting edge is all the way there, the thumb stud is back over here. So they actually positioned it pretty well. Smith & Wesson, we all know what Smith & Wesson is. It's like the starter knives, especially when it comes to modern folders. A lot of people, the first one they ever pick up is a Smith & Wesson. And it's like, you know, like I said, it's the starter knife. They're low economy brand knives, and they really get a lot of people hooked on knives. This one is different than typical of Smith & Wesson, and the thumb stud, well, I don't like thumb studs to begin with, so it's really easy for me to remove that. When it comes to modern folders, to tell you the truth, I do like the inexpensive ones, and I like them to be flippers, and I like them to be automatic. I like that to happen. That is more fun to me than being a drop shutty knife. I don't mind that I need to take two hands to close it. I like the whole flipper thing. Anyway, let's move on to something else. Multi-tools. A lot of knife channels talk about multi-tools. I have attempted on several occasions to do something about multi-tools on my channel, and I just can't do it. It just, I want to, but I just can't. And the main reason is I look at these, and so many people look at these and think, oh, knife. I never think of these as a knife. I think of these as what they are. They are a folding pair of pliers. That's their biggest attribute to them, that they are a pair of pliers that fold up and are very compact. They're not necessarily big once you unfold them, but that's really the big thing with these, as far as I'm concerned, is they're a pair of pliers. Typically, I don't care to use the tools on these. Now, I think they've done a lot of major improvements on these. By the way, this one is by Victorinox. This is the Swiss tool, and it's, I think, one of the first ones that Victorinox made. This here is a Leatherman. This one belonged to my brother-in-law who passed away, and it's been gifted to me. And this is one of the original Leatherman tools, patent pending and everything else. And it is nice, and it will never leave the collection because of where it came from. But they're not, to me, this is a multi-tool. It is not a knife. It is a folding plier that happens to have a knife blade in it. And that's the difference for me, the way the blades come out and everything else. And yeah, the blades lock on some of them they don't. I think this one does not have locking blades. The Swiss tool over here, the blades lock on it. So, you know, they're safer because they do lock and everything. But you can find locking blades on other knives. Hey, there you go. And I guess that now it kind of looks like a knife, but to me it's still just a multi-tool. It's not a knife. There's a difference to me between a knife that has multiple uses and a multi-tool. And the big difference is multi-tools will fold out, and once they're folded out, they will display their main tool, which is pliers or sometimes scissors or something of that nature. But usually you open it up and it is something that has the moving joint in the middle, and it's used for pliers, scissors, whatever. And then it has other tools hidden in the handle. The handle of a knife, of a folding knife, the main tool that you get out of that knife is the main blade, which is a cutting blade. It is a folding knife that happens to have other tools with it. This is a multi-tool. Then there's a multi-use knife, or whatever you want to call it. But that's the big difference for me, and I've never really been drawn to these. I know a lot of people swear by them, and I'm glad they do. I have watched reviews of these even, but for me, they're not a traditional knife. They're something else. They are a different kind of tool. And I know there's channels out there that review these, and they also review hammers, and they review axes and everything else imaginable, any kind of tool out there, and that's cool. But I have enough problems just keeping on top of knives without trying to jump into the world of multi-tools. I guess that's what it comes down to. So it's my weakness, but that's where I am with multi-tools and the channel. Okay, I should have probably started this whole video with this one instead of saving it for now. This is when the person comes to my channel and they say to me, you know, I've bought 17 knives from that brand and every one of them sucks. The blades wobble, they won't sharpen, the handle falls apart, the springs break, they're just awful. The shields won't stay on, they're just nasty knives. I don't know why you're saying such good things about that knife. And you know what, the only thing I can think to say back to you is, congratulations. You have got to be the most loyal fan of that brand that I have ever come across. Because quite frankly, if I bought 2 knives from a company and they were bad, I would seriously reconsider buying a 3rd one. But for you to have bought so many knives from that brand and continue to buy knives from that brand even though they suck, you should be a spokesman for the company, because you have such brand loyalty that it is just totally unbelievable. I admire your stick-to-itiveness. The fact that you would keep buying those knives over and over and over, even though you knew they sucked. That is really true brand loyalty. You should be a spokesman for the company. Either that or you should be committed, because you gotta be stupid if you're going to keep buying knives that you don't like. If you don't like knives from a certain brand, then don't buy them. And you know what? Coming to a channel and complaining because somebody else actually likes those knives, it's not going to help any. You're not going to change their mind. They have their mind figured out based on the knives that they have bought. They have a different level of quality control than you do. It's that simple. And chances are you are throwing out a bunch of hyperbole about just how bad the knives are. Because if they were all that bad, the company would have gone out of business a long time ago. We all know that. So give it a rest already. And finally, if you allow me, I would like to make this formal statement concerning some poor choices that I have made in the past concerning my knife buying habits. I figure I need to come clean, and so here it goes. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. I'm terribly sorry that my purchasing of a Chinese-made knife that was sold and distributed by numerous hardworking Americans has somehow led to the downfall of Western society. Here I was thinking it had to do with years of misguided politicians who have continuously manipulated domestic and international trade policies to line their own pockets instead of protecting our own global and domestic interests. For this, I'm very sorry.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Bias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.